Hi guys, thank you for supporting Keep Inspired Curated Art Kits, and today we're going to show you a video tutorial for an artwork called Three Kings. This is one of our seasonal and limited runs, so make sure you finish this before the holidays if you plan on gifting it. So before we begin, please make sure that you have all your materials ready, which comes complete in the kit that you have purchased. Your paints, your brushes, your palette, and of course the canvas/greeting card. And aside from these, please prepare a container of water for dipping your brushes, a scratch paper where you can swatch the paint, and some napkins for cleaning and drying. Let's begin. So if you've been hanging with us for a while, you'll know that for paintings like this, which involve a landscape, we always begin with the farthest detail, which is the background, and then we move closer to the foreground, okay? So it's always background first, the middle ground, and then the foreground. So let's start off by mixing the ultramarine blue with a lot of water. So let's begin with the corners. We are imagining that there's a big circle in the middle of the paper, so let's work our way around that circle. Let's use cross-hatching strokes to create texture for the night sky. As we move towards the middle of our imaginary circle, the color should lighten. So let's use water to dilute the ultramarine blue and work our way towards the center to blend. Let's go ahead and add another layer of the ultramarine blue. So let's set that aside and wait for it to dry a bit. At this point, let's mix in some of that light blue paint that we have along with the ultramarine blue on the palette. So with this new color, let's begin blending it with the ultramarine layer that we've created on the paper. Again, let's use cross-hatching strokes to create texture. So make sure you dab a bit lighter where the three kings are, so later when we can still see the sketch. So now let's rinse our brush and get that pure turquoise color. Just continue doing those textured strokes, working our way towards the center of that circular shape. So again, it's easier to blend these paints or these colors while they're wet. So let's just go on and do that circular motion with our brushes to combine the colors. So now it's time to lighten that turquoise. So let's get a bit of white and mix it in. So let's continue with that, following along that circular shape that we've created. And note that when you reach the middle, it has to be the lightest. You might want to do this while the paint is still wet because it will be easier for us to blend the colors while the paint isn't dry yet. So again, let's add more white to our existing turquoise mix to create another layer for our gradient. So of course, you can dip your brush in water if you feel that the paint is getting a bit dry. So with that slightly damp brush, let's continue by blending all the colors, gently working our way towards the middle until that circular space is completely painted on. So now let's get some pure white and slowly blend it on the right side where the star is located. So let's rinse our brush and dry it a bit, and let's go ahead and paint that initial mix that we made onto the corners of the artwork. Let's try to add more layers to create better texture for that area. And now let's work on the mountains. So let's get some of that ultramarine blue. It's still using that flat brush. Let's go ahead and dab along that outline. And for the other parts or the sections of that mountain, let's blend in a deeper turquoise by adding in some more blue and a bit of yellow. So once we've got that figured out, let's go ahead and paint into that sketch. Julius here is using a flat brush, but if you think you're having a hard time working with a flat brush, you can switch to a pointed brush. So if you think the paint is getting a bit dry, let's add in some water. So just go ahead and paint into that sketch of that mountain. Just be mindful about where the legs of the camels are because we need to be painting them in a different shade later on. So now let's rinse our brush and go ahead, get some of that pure turquoise paint and begin working on the next layer of that mountain. So now let's switch to using a pointed brush. Okay, so take note that as we move closer to the foreground, the mountains become darker. So here you can see Julius applying a stroke of that darker turquoise, and he is slowly blending it with a dry brush. So now it's time to grab our flat brush once again and let's get some of that Prussian blue, like pure Prussian blue paint, and apply it on the foreground. So again, he's using a cross-hatching technique to create texture for this specific layer. So now let's mix an even darker color by mixing the Prussian blue and some brown. So we'll use that to paint the lower portion of the mountain. Okay, so let's wait for it to dry a bit before we work on the three kings. So now, using your pointed brush, let's get pure Prussian blue paint and just paint into the silhouettes of the three kings. So don't be in a hurry when you paint into these silhouettes because it's kind of tricky. So just take your time. So now let's rinse your pointed brush and let's work on the lights at Bethlehem. So let's get some of that yellow paint and directly paint it on as lights. Let's rinse our pointed brush. Let's get some pure white paint. Let's go on and work on that star. So now let's mix some of that turquoise and make it lighter. So as you can see, Julius is trying to shape it or form the bristles to make it pointier so that we can use it to paint in the stars. Now let's get some of that white paint and let's put in some stars. And once we're done with the stars, let's go back and let's work on some of the details and highlights on some of the mountains. And now for the finishing touches, let's add some long strokes onto that mountain. And there you have it, another painting done with Keep Inspired Curated Art Kits, of course, demoed by Julius Legaspi. We'd love for you to share your works, so please tag us when you upload them. Our social media accounts are at keepinspired.artkits for both Facebook and Instagram. Thank you once again for joining us today, and we hope that we are keeping you guys inspired.